Hey guys, this is Saurabh here from TechYard and welcome back to our channel again. And last day I posted a video in Hindi telling you which points actually you should consider when you are gonna buying a phone for the first time. Now I made that video in Hindi. The English video was made, but somehow it was not. We were not able to post that on YouTube. So here is the video for you all. I have to shoot it again. Anyway, so coming to the video, I will be telling you the points, the things that you should keep in mind when you are gonna buy a new phone for you, and moreover, what point you should prefer at first regarding your way of living. And guys, if you haven't already done it, do subscribe to my channel, hit the red subscribe button, and if you really love this video, do like the video and do share with your friends. So without further delay, let's get started. So guys, now coming to the very first thing, which is always the budget. Now if your budget is around 10 to 15,000 or even 20,000, then you can easily go for a lot of devices in that price range. Most probably you will be missing the Apple iPhones, but apart from that there are some good Android phones in that price tag. Now if your budget is around 1 lakh rupees, then iPhone, Samsung, anything for you. But if you are on a budget, I would love to mention you one thing. If you're gonna buy a product of around 15,000 or even 20,000, whatever your budget is, make sure if it is very much convenient if you have 10% of that budget extra in your amount in your hand. Like let's take an example of your budget is 20,000 and you went to the market or even online sites and you get the fact that there is a phone of around 21,000 rupees which is better for you, you believe. So what you have to do, just if you have that 10% of extra, or if you can arrange that, wait for a few days then buy the device. It is better to wait for a few days and buy the device of your own need than to buy a device at once because you need to buy a phone. Buying the right phone is always the primary thing. Now coming to the next point guys, which is point number 2, is definitely the size. Now talking about size, few phones does have a very good screen to body ratio. At the other hand, few phones doesn't have that feature. Now if I'm just talk about iPhones, what I have personally felt in case of the iPhones is that their display size, whatever it is, be it 5.5 inch or 4.7 inch, their chins on the top, the bezels, they're way too much. I mean, even a 4.7 inch iPhone takes a lot of your size in the hand. Although it is slim, but I would say this is something that not every phone comes up with a standard feature. So what you have to do is that when you just go and buy a phone, make sure you can hold the phone in your hand properly. Well, if you just ask me about an example, well, talk about me. This is my personal device. This is my Nokia Lumia 730, and the reason I use this phone is definitely because of this size. It's very much convenient in my hand. I can easily hold it, and the screen size is a 4.7 inch and the screen is excellent. I have no issues with that. Although the chins are bit more than I expect, but still I would say even at 4.7 inch with this kind of aesthetics, I'm pretty happy with it. My hands are very much limited to 5-inch devices, and the secondary phone that I use is the Redmi 4 Prime, which also happens to be a 5-inch device. Now coming to my next point guys, which is the operating system. Well, I know not all of you love Windows like me, but so the race comes to only 2 operating systems, which is definitely the iOS from Apple, another one is Android. And as BlackBerry OS is almost dead, it is completely dead I believe. So so in case of the Android and iPhones, let just suppose that you are coming from a proprietary OS like Samsung's proprietary or Nokia's proprietary, whatever it is. So let's just assume that you are coming from that area. Now if you really want to move to Android, that's entirely up to you, and if you really want to move to Apple, that is entirely up to you. The thing is, when you're gonna buy a phone of around 15 to 20,000, if 20,000 is your budget, then Android is your only way to go. But if your budget is around 50,000 or 70,000, even 1 lakh, then you have got plenty of plenty of options in your hand, like Samsung with their own UI plus Android, and then comes the iOS. Now a thing about iOS is that it is very much different. It is one of its kind. So before buying an iPhone, please try to borrow your friend's iPhone if there is any provision like that. I'm just telling you, just borrow the iPhone, use it for a few days. If you really love it, then do go for it. If not for a few days, try it at least for a few hours. First learn to how to use the iOS, because it is not Android is very much easy to get, but iOS, in my opinion, I personally believe it's not that much, I don't know, but I'm very much obsessed with Android. But yeah, iOS on the other hand is very good, but it might take time for you to get used to it, that's all. Now coming to my next point, guys, which is the battery backup, and moreover, the battery backup has been a very huge revolution, I would say, in case of the mobile market. Now even phones at 6 to 7,000, even at 10,000, coming up with mammoth batteries which were not available even 3 to 4 years ago. I remember my first phone having a 1900 milliampere battery, and nowadays at the same price tag you will get around 4000, 4100, 5000 mAh batteries. So it has been a revolution. But it doesn't mean that you should always look for very high-end battery backup devices. Now why is that? Is because your phone should be your own device. If you get the chance to charge your device multiple times a day, or if you keep a power bank with you, then there is no point of buying a phone just because it has got a huge amount of battery backup. I know that's advantage when you go to long drives or somewhere you don't have electricity at your hand, you can't charge your phone. That extra juice will give you some time to talk, time to communicate, etc. But if you just can't do charge your phone multiple times, there is no point buying a phone just because it has got a mammoth battery. That's an advantage, but that advantage might not be applicable all the times for you. And now coming to the next thing, which is the processor. Now processor is definitely a very important thing, but it is also depends on how the user works. There are processors like talking about Snapdragon, because it is easier to in the nomenclature of Snapdragon is easier than of MediaTek's. Now talking about Snapdragon, we got Snapdragon 200, Snapdragon 210. They are still alive in the market, and there is Snapdragon 400, 410, 425, 430, 625, 650, 660, 626, and there is the Snapdragon 8 series, the beast series, to be honest, 810, 820, 821, now coming up the 835. There are a lot of Snapdragon processor. At the other hand, we have got a MediaTek. The nomenclature is very tough, so I'm not going to go for that. And there is the high silicon Kirin processors from Huawei. So talking about this processor, not all the processors are actually meant for you. Now you can easily say that I will buy a device with Snapdragon 820 and I have got the power in my hand, but it doesn't always very much logical to buy a Snapdragon 820 just because it is a Snapdragon 820. Why I'm taking Snapdragon 410 and 820 in the same time is because there are companies like Lenovo providing 820 at 15K, and there are Samsung providing Snapdragon 410 at 15K as well. So there there is a conflict between the users. Look, more power is very good, but it is not always important to you. Now coming to the next thing, guys, is the RAM. Now there has been a lot of debate on how much RAM you actually want, but I personally believe that it is entirely depends on how you work. Now for me, I'm a Lumia user, and for me 1 gigs RAM is way more than enough. And just because it is in Lumia, 1 gigs is enough. But even if for Android, I would say if you are too much into social networks, which most of us actually are, if you really surf the internet a lot, you play games at times, or even if you are a hardcore gamer, 3 gigs is the ultimate. There are 4 gigs models, even 6 gigs, they're coming up with 6 gigs. It does give you some kind of edge when you are gonna do the Premiere Pro stuffs in your device, which is kind of, some people do that, I don't do, but some people really do that. So at that moment 4 gigs or 6 gigs might help you out, but for normal user, even for higher end gamers, 3 gigs is way more than enough. And if you don't play game that much, if you're into too much social media, I believe 2 gigs will give you good performance. But yeah, 3 gigs is now have become the pinnacle. I believe 3 gigs is that perfect sweet spot that you should go for, 3 gigs of RAM in case of any Android device. So guys, and now coming to the next point, which is the internal memory. Now it is kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people, is that most of the times, even now in Nougat, there are, and Marshmallow as well, most of the phones are actually coming up with the facility that you can't move your apps on the SD card. There are a lot of companies are coming with this feature, kind of limitation of Marshmallow, I would say. So what they're actually doing is that they are actually increasing the internal storage. You will see that phones at 6 or even 7,000 are coming up with the 16 gig storage, and there is Samsung, LG even, who are actually stuck with 16 gig storage on their 15 to 20K devices. So internal storage is an important part nowadays if you're running on Marshmallow or Nougat, but it's not all. But if you really are not a gamer, just install some apps like social apps, and mostly you just install a lot of media, then there is micro SD card for you. Most of the phones does support 128 gigs expansion. That's not a big thing for you, but if you're a gamer, internal storage is definitely your matter of concern. On the other hand, I just forgot to tell you one thing, is that there are some specific features of each device. When the device actually comes out in market, the company actually focuses on that features and then market that. Mostly if I just talk about Vivo or Oppo, they have gathered so much popularity and also so much sales just because they have got some awesome front and rear camera. I mean, if I just talk about the front camera, they have marketed the selfie camera feature way more than it was expected from a company like Vivo or Oppo, and really people are buying that because selfie camera or selfie has become a trend nowadays in India, not only in India, worldwide, and people are actually falling for their marketing gimmicks. And yeah, the front cameras are definitely great at Oppo or Vivo, but apart from those front cameras, the rest internals are not that up to that mark. So that is something to look for. If you really are a selfie, you're always taking selfies, then if it is almost your main priority, forgetting everything I have said still now. So yeah, then if you are really a selfie queen or like that, then selfie phones which are giving a good selfie cameras, it should be your main priority. Or there are some people as well who doesn't click that much selfie, but for them rear camera is the important part, like they want to do the mobile photography. Then there are few phones which are having better rear cameras. There are some people who actually prefer the good display with good audio output. There are few phones that offers the same feature like they want. So there are I won't say there is a perfect phone, there will never be a perfect phone, but yeah, there are few phones having some strong features. So if you are really into that kind of thing, I mean really looking for some features in a device, then you should check those phones before. I mean, just check for those phones, then look for their features. If you love it, then go for it, because you are mostly buying the phone for its feature. Now talking about the brand value, there is seriously a thing called brand value. There are reasons why Samsung market their phones, sell their phones at a relatively higher price with bad internals. I mean, regarding the price tag, like Xiaomi does. Like Xiaomi sells the Redmi 3S having the Snapdragon 430 at 7,000, whereas Samsung selling their 410 devices at 15,000. So there is a huge gap. I mean, 3S having a better processor, more powerful processor, same internals, 2 gigs, 16 gigs, Samsung having the same, but the 9,000 price gap consists a lot of things. The very first thing is the Samsung's brand value. The brand value is a very important thing, guys. And second thing is that it also includes the after sales services. Now look, when you buy a phone, you don't buy the phone actually, you also buy the after sales services for around a year. And in this case, LG, HTC, although LG and HTC are all getting obsolete in Indian market, Sony on the other hand, Samsung, they are actually the real winners. Although I have never bought a Sony device, so I won't be commenting on that, but my experience with HTC, LG and Samsung has been great. And really, when you just go to their service center, you give them your phone, and the way they treat with it, I really love the fact. But the same thing never happens with Xiaomi. It's because you are not actually paying for it, actually paying for the hardware, and the after sales service, although they have that is not up to that mark. So these are the things, guys, that you should keep in your mind. But there is always one thing I tell a lot of people whenever they ask me for their dream device. I'd say that your product, the phone you're gonna buy, is definitely your phone. No one's gonna take that from you. So make sure you buy the phone of your own choice. don't get puzzled, never get puzzled by the other people's saying. They might tell you that this phone is good and you might fall for that. Then you go and buy the phone, and even after using for 2 days you feel that no, the phone feels so heavy, no, the display is not good, no, this one I never expected this in my device. Take your time, think very carefully, and then buy the phone, because it's an investment and it's your money. So guys, this is all for today. I hope you love this video. Make sure you do hit the like button if you loved it. If you don't like it, you know what to do. Do subscribe to our channel if you haven't done already. Till then, bye. People have a great day. Hope to see you in my next video. Stay awesome. Stay subscribed.